Today we're going to jump on the mini Slimline bandwagon and use some metallic watercolors in a fairy tale fashion. Welcome back. It's time for another Take 2 with Therese at Altenew, and I've got two beautiful floral cards to share with you. They're Slimlines, and I'm going to be using this Fairy Tale Florals stamp set. Now, it's a crime, I know. I haven't used this set as yet, but it hasn't been in stock, and it is back in stock, so I thought I couldn't wait to share a couple of cards using it with you. I have the Stonehenge. Now, this is actually a black watercolor cardstock. I know, how awesome. I have used normal black cardstock before, so you could certainly try that if you have some, but the watercolor cardstock is obviously going to hold up to the watercolors that much better, and it's 140 pounds, so it's a nice heavyweight cardstock. I'm stamping out the main bouquet image from the stamp set, and I'm going to do this twice. And the first time here I'm heat embossing it, so I've used the embossing ink and my Misty because it is a large stamp, and I'm working on watercolor cardstock which has a slight texture, so it's easier and more I'm more likely to get a better impression with the Misty. And look, my embossing ink is disappearing. That's because it's crystal clear. Which is like having black embossing ink technically, because it's clear embossing ink on black cardstock. But this second one is much easier to see, and that one's the antique gold version. So here are the metallic watercolors from Altenew. There's 14 different colors, and I hadn't swatched them on any black cardstock because I didn't have any watercolor cardstock, so I decided today was the day to do that, because you need to add the watercolor to the cardstock that you're going to be using, whatever color it is, so you know exactly what color it's going to turn out. Because if you look at the variation of the colors from the white cardstock to the black, it's very different, and the shimmer on these is really beautiful. I pretty much just picked up the colors, so I started by just adding a drop of water to the actual pan itself, and then I'm using a watercolor brush, one of the round brushes from Altenew, and I found that the size 4 was a better size to use, although I did come in with the smaller brush on the black version just because I was having trouble seeing the lines. I don't have the best vision and I did have a bit of trouble seeing the line, so I found the smaller brush was a little bit more forgiving for me. I'm pretty much just picking up the paint and dropping it into the embossed sort of wells that you create when, you know, because it has the ridge of the embossing, so the colors aren't going to spread and contaminate each other. So really fast process, not this fast obviously, but it is actually a really fast process in real life because I'm just adding color. I did leave a little bit of black on these, on the red version here, but on the other version where I colored the lighter color on the black heat embossing or the clear heat embossing, I did color all the way up to the edges because it just helped see where exactly the petals and the leaves were. But I liked that little bit of black that was left behind here. This is a stunning color, and it's really hard to catch the shimmer obviously on video and in photos. I don't know what I was thinking. I think that's why I don't do a lot of embossing and falling, because it's really hard to photograph sometimes. Although I've been practicing, I think I'm getting there. It's always a learning curve, everything we do, which is a good thing. So I did exactly the same thing here. I just sort of did tone on tone here though. I was only going to show you this little portion of the colouring because otherwise it's exactly the same. I just dropped all the colours on, but for the main rose images, is it a rose or an anemone? It's beautiful anyway. But I did come in and add the second green here, the darker one, which is the jade on top of the praziolite, and because I've never blended the metallic colours together, and I was just interested to see how it would go, and I think that looked really pretty. And you should see the water after you wash your brushes out, how much shimmer and shine. I'm sure you can put that in a spritzer bottle. And I finished colouring that and set them both aside to dry, because now I'm going to be making my Slimline cards. These are mini ones, and what I decided to do was use it's from the Nesting Slims rectangle dies. It's the second largest one, and it's a bit of an odd size for a mini Slimline, but I figure you can make these whatever size you want, and you can always make a coordinating envelope or put it in a larger envelope, or just give it as a gift card. The finished size of this card is 2 3/4 by 6 3/4 inches, and what I was doing here was just lining up the actual die over top of my image. And this image is just such a lovely bouquet. You could use any portion of the image, and the mini Slimline is such a good size to work on. You don't want to, I didn't want to over busy it or make it too complicated, because you know me, simple is better. I tend towards keeping things, what is it, the kiss theory. I tend towards the kiss theory. And when I added the tape to the watercolor cardstock around the die, I did make sure to put it on the outside, because I knew it was going to probably lift a bit of the cardstock up because it's a softer cardstock. My sentiment today is from a stamp set called The Best Thing. This is a little mini sentiment stamp set, and it's a really pretty font. And I did come along and add some satin gold sequins as well. And my cards today, they're side fold cards. I thought that was going to be easier with such a slim version of card. Although I suppose it would be fun to make a top fold. It might just get a bit floppy if you use thinner cardstock. I'll probably stick to the side fold. And on my second card today, I'm going to be doing a bit of a bold sort of sentiment, and it's from the Hello and Hugs stamp and die set. This is one of my favourite sentiment sets from Altenew, and it has a stamped version of the Hugs and Hello as well as a double layered die cut set. So I created a black and white Hugs, and I actually cut that out of the Stonehenge black cardstock because you know it's all got to be matchy, and I stamped the sub-sentiment from the stamp set with some obsidian black ink and cut that down so it's nice and thin. And then all I had to do was pop up my sentiment. I have put it over the actual flowers. I know that this does upset some people, but this is where it looked right to me today. Maybe next time I'll make a different version where it's not on top of the flowers. I also came in and added some satin white sequins, and these are probably the ones that are my go-to from Altenew. I wouldn't have thought that I'd use these white sequins as much as I do, but they seem to go with everything. Alright, so I hope you're inspired to try some metallic watercolor painting on some black cardstock. Definitely try it on whatever black cardstock you've got, because I know it does work. Thanks for joining me today. Till next time, bye.